Hi, everyone. My name is Julia Lundstrom, and I'm a neuroscience and brain health educator and the CEO of Simple Smart Science. And I'm really excited to introduce our very own Carol McCarthy today. She is one of our certified memory and cognitive health coaches and genetic counselor here at Simple Smart Science, where she helps our customers live their happiest and healthiest lives based upon their genes. As she likes to say, one of my favorite sayings that I've adopted from her, your genes load the gun and your lifestyle and environment pull the trigger. So, using her degree in biochemistry and her master's in biophysics and genetics, she worked as a genetic counselor until that fateful day she got her cancer diagnosis. So, this completely changed the course of her life. And she was able to heal herself after chemo sent her in a really bad downward spiral. She got certified in integrative nutrition, functional medicine, gut health, and cognitive decline. And this last year, while working with hundreds of our customers and clients, she, in tandem, got her Bredesen 2 certification in order to be able to take our clients on a very, very deep journey to help repair their brains from decades of bad habits to get them to optimal health so that they can feel their healthiest and happiest every day until their last. I'm so proud to welcome Carol McCarthy today. Welcome, Carol.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm super proud and privileged to be here.
Well, let's dive right in. I'm going to skip all the small talk and really start deep. So, I'd like you to tell us why you're so passionate about what you do in working with clients to get them to optimal health in their golden years.
Well, that's a quite a long story. As you know from introducing me, I'm pretty much a science nerd. So I've loved science my whole life, and was working very happily in a career of genetic counseling and raising my young family. And I was blindsided by a cancer diagnosis when my kids were 2, 4, and 6 years old. And if cancer doesn't put the fear of God in you at any age, it certainly does when you've got toddlers running around your house. So I, out of fear, which is how we kind of approach medicine in our country, unfortunately, just did exactly what my doctors told me. I had a mastectomy. I had 6 months of chemotherapy. I had reconstructive surgery. And after that year of life got sucked out of me, I said, okay, what do I do now? Now I have a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, or 5-year-old, 7-year-old, whatever they were at the time. And I don't want to die. I've got to raise my family. So now what do I do? What do I do so the cancer doesn't come back? And the doctor said, nothing. When the cancer comes back, you come back to us and we'll treat you again. And I was floored. I thought, that can't be the answer to this year of hell I just lived to, is just wait until it comes back. So I put my science hat back on and started researching and researching and researching and researching, and was shocked to find there's tons you can do to prevent disease. You can prevent cancer. You can prevent most chronic disease. And I could not believe that I had just spent a year with multiple doctor appointments and nobody ever gave me any advice on how to prevent cancer from occurring in the first place, or certainly how to prevent a recurrence, or even how to recover from chemotherapy. I mean, chemotherapy is like, going half dead and then coming back in between rounds. And they don't tell you anything about that. So I started diving into the world of holistic health and learned what's the best way to eat to support cancer and not get cancer again. What's the best way to sleep? What's the best way to exercise? How do you manage your stress better? All of the things we teach, right, in brain health to our clients is the same for all chronic disease, with a little bit of nuances, a little bit of specialties in the brain world. But being healthy is being healthy. It helps all disease. So I found this out for myself and I dove head in. Again, out of fear. I had little kids and I was scared I was going to leave them alone. So I changed my diet. I started going to the gym. I started saying no to commitments I didn't have to do, taking breaks from life, resting, recovering, prioritizing sleep, doing all of those things. And I, unfortunately, can't end my story there, because After chemo, I was diagnosed with multiple autoimmune diseases.
Mm.
Now, I know now I did have the genetic predisposition for all of this to happen, but I was diagnosed with something called ankylosing spondylitis, which is a degenerative arthritic disease, very similar to rheumatoid arthritis, but rheumatoid arthritis attacks your small joints. Ankylosing spondylitis attacks your large joints. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which is a chronic inflammatory bowel disease. And I was diagnosed with MS, which is a degenerative neurological disease. And I
That's a
thought,
lot to take on
a lot. And I
after the
thought,
cancer.
after the cancer. And I thought, how can this be? I'm doing everything right now. I'm eating really well. I'm exercising. I'm sleeping well. I'm managing my stress. I'm limiting toxins, doing all the things that I learned. And I was still getting sick. Put my science hat back on again, started doing the research. What causes autoimmunity? How did I get to this point? And of course, there's a whole world of research out there that talks to what are the root causes to autoimmunity. And so that led me into the world of functional medicine. So our allopathic medicine is taught, how can you medicate symptoms? How
And
can
when you
you
say
make somebody
allopathic,
feel?
you mean our traditional primary care physician, our
Exactly,
traditional
exactly.
medical industry that we've grown very accustomed to the last 60, 70 years, right?
Exactly, exactly. What our doctors are taught in medical school
Mhm.
is how to prescribe or how to do a procedure, right? And listen, that stuff is life saving for
Yeah,
sure.
I wouldn't have a leg without some antibiotics.
That's
I
right.
mean, I
That's
got a
right.
really bad infection a couple
Yeah.
of years
So
ago, and
I
I would have
realize
lost
that
it.
there is a
Yeah,
time and a place for that approach to medicine,
absolutely, absolutely.
but chronic disease is a completely different thing. It
Yeah.
develops over decades and it lasts for decades and eventually kills you. So I dove into the world of functional medicine, which asks a different question. It doesn't ask what's wrong with you. It asks, why did this happen in the first place? Why does somebody get autoimmunity? Why does somebody get cancer?
Mm.
And it tries to address the why instead of addressing the what. What do you feel? A headache? Okay, take this drug, right? You have cancer? Take chemotherapy. You have a
Yeah.
problem in this part of your body? Let's cut it off, right?
Yeah.
So I fell in love with this whole concept of there's a reason why all of this happened.
Mhm.
And nobody was telling me this stuff. So after diving in deep in my own health, going to see a wonderful functional medicine doctor, I went back to school. I got certified in integrative nutrition. I got certified in functional medicine. I got certified in gut health because that was one of my primary problems and frankly is the root cause of most chronic disease, especially autoimmunity. And then I changed career paths completely and I started working with an MD in a functional medicine practice. And it was just the most wonderful, fulfilling thing to take all the suffering that I had been through and everything that I had learned and all of the new layer of education and be able to teach other people why they were sick and what they can do to feel better.
Right. I mean, we talk about the cliche a lot of times, the root cause, but it is true when we're
It
looking
is
at
true.
traditional medicine, they're not looking at the root cause. They're looking at putting a band-aid over a symptom, typically with drugs, right? But
Exactly.
the work you've been doing and what you do every single day, and you've been doing now for, I mean, how long?
25 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
25 years is getting to what's causing this.
Mm-hmm.
Because putting a band-aid on it with a drug isn't going to fix the problem. It's only going to
That's
get
right.
worse. You're going to have side effects of the drugs. We need to look at fixing the root cause, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
What would you say is maybe one of the biggest misconceptions people have when it comes to functional medicine and looking at the root cause of things?
I think that it's too hard, right? I
Right?
think
Taking a pill is really easy. I
yes,
mean,
and
that it's
everybody
true.
wants the quick fix because we're
Yeah,
indoctrinated into that medical model, right?
right,
I want to
right.
get
And I
rid
don't
of
have
my
to change.
symptom
I just need to
today.
take a pill.
That's right.
I can still keep my bad habits.
That's right. And change is hard. I mean, I still struggle with, the changes. I'm still learning. I'm still trying new things. And it's hard. Let me tell you, when I sit at a dinner table with a bunch of friends and everyone's having pizza and beer and I'm ordering a salad, that's hard. But it's worth it. It is so worth it
Well,
because
you're saying I love, and I've repeated like 100 times since I've heard you say this, is nothing tastes as good as healthy feels.
absolutely,
And that's just
absolutely.
one of my bet. I mean, I think about that all the time now when I see that and the unhealthy and the alcohol and all that stuff. I just think nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. And it's so true. Like you just feel
So
so
true.
amazing.
That's right. And for me, I truly, truly believe, I mean, there's no metric really in my life to say I would have died from cancer if I hadn't changed everything, or I would be in a wheelchair now with MS if I hadn't changed
Right.
everything. Like,
Right.
I don't have the proof, but
Right.
from a scientific standpoint, now knowing all of the root causes and all of the things that I've done, and I'm alive and thriving this
Right.
many years later. I mean, I went to boot camp yesterday at the gym. I mean, that's crazy to me that
Yeah.
other people who have cancer and autoimmunity are not living or they're crippled. When I'm in the doctor's office waiting for my appointment with my rheumatologist, everybody else is crippled. And I skip into the office, tell her all the things I'm doing, and I skip out. It's just incredible. So I believe, even though I didn't have a blood test at this point in my life and a blood test at this point in my life
Right.
that proves what I did worked, I honestly believe deep, 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 deep down that I would not be here if I hadn't done what I've done.
I mean, everything was stacked against you. Cancer, MS, Crohn's disease. I mean, this is not,
Yeah.
yes, I mean, you really shouldn't be here. So I'm going to say with 100% certainty that everything you've done has not only saved your life, but also made you thrive. And I think that's the really key point here because we're not trying to just save lives,
That's right.
right? So much of what we're doing is making people, especially as they get older, people in their late 50s, 60s, 70s,
Mhm.
80s, 90s, whatever age you are, why not be the healthiest version of yourself so you can enjoy your days? You can be the happiest. I always say,
Yeah.
you're if you're the healthiest and happy, if your brain is the healthiest and happiest it can be, you're the healthiest and happiest you can be. And we like
Yeah.
to say put your brain first, but it's all we look at the holistic approach. And
It's
so
all
gut health
related.
for you and looking at your gut health, tell us a little bit about your health, your journey into just focusing on gut health alone.
Yes. So it turns out that the trigger or the predisposing root cause for autoimmunity is something called leaky gut. So
We've
the
heard a lot about that
lining, yeah.
recently.
So
Yeah.
the lining of your intestines is extremely fragile, only one cell layer thick, and it's prone to damage, right? It's prone to damage
Really,
because
only
of
one cell. I
one
didn't know that.
cell layer thick. Because when you eat food, this sophisticated single layer lining allows you to absorb nutrients and keep
Mhm.
everything else out in the way it's supposed to work, right? Because think about it, we don't ever take things from the outside world and put them into our body, right? But we take food, water that's covered with toxins, covered with pesticides, all sorts of things covered with bacteria and put it inside. We don't actually want that stuff to enter our body. We want it to go through our body, and we want our system to take out the nutrients so we can live. Everything else, let's poop it out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you damage that lining, which our modern world has so many things that can damage that lining, it can get damaged by stress, it can get damaged by poor digestion, it can get damaged by over the counter painkillers like Advil. So many things damage that lining that we are doing to ourselves all the time, every day. Then you're not just absorbing nutrients. Now you've literally got holes in the lining of your intestines, and food, bacteria, toxins are entering your bloodstream. And your immune system, yep,
Hmm.
your immune system sees these foreign objects, just like if you were infected with a virus or a bacteria in your bloodstream, and says, holy mackerel, that piece of bagel should not be in my bloodstream. And it mounts an immune response against the food or the bacteria or the toxins. But we eat all the time. We eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. So your immune system gets turned on all the time, every single time you eat and something escapes that lining. That's chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation in your gut is going to travel everywhere. It's going to travel to your joints. It's going to travel to your brain. and it sets up this fire inside of you that you're never healing from. It's not like the inflammation we want, right? You break your bone and then your body goes to work healing that bone with inflammation. Chronic inflammation undermines your health. And so autoimmunity happens because when your body is busy attacking all of these foods and things popping into your body, our cells, our biology are made out of the same framework as other living things like food, right? And so an exhausted immune system can start to make mistakes through a process called molecular mimicry. The molecules of our body start to look like the molecules of that piece of bagel they're trying to fight every single day. And so it starts to make mistakes. And it looks at our thyroid or our joints or our brain or our gut and says, oh, wait, that looks a lot like that piece of bagel. I better start attacking that too. That is the root cause of autoimmunity.
We say you are what you eat. That's literally what's
Literally,
happening. Your immune system is
literally,
saying you look just like what you're eating and it's not good and I'm going to attack it. Right?
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so that's the basis of autoimmunity. So, of course, when I went to functional medicine, they tested me. I had leaky gut and tons of food sensitivities, tons of parts of my body being attacked. And then I also had like literally every other thing you could have wrong with your gut. I had a candida, which is a yeast overgrowth. I had SIBO, which is bacteria migrating into your small intestines where it shouldn't be. I had a parasite. It was like so many things went wrong. Again, I had already been to a million doctors. I had had cancer. Nobody ever looked at my gut. And I had gut symptoms. I had Crohn's disease and nobody was looking at my gut. So I healed from all of that.
How amazing. Well done.
Incredible, incredible.
It is
Um,
incredible.
and we offer this kind of stuff in Simple Smart Science, right? If you have
Mhm.
something happening in your cognition, there are root causes to that. It is not just you're getting older and therefore your memory is not working as well. Like you've got to look for what's actually happening. And the foundation of that is your lifestyle. How are you eating? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you moving your body? Are you minimizing toxins in your life? All of these things. But then on top of that is, okay, do you have any reason for chronic inflammation in your body? Do you have imbalances? Do you have leaky gut? Because if we can fix that and lower inflammation in your body, that's going to benefit your brain.
Well, let's go back to this biggest misconception that it's hard because
Yeah,
it isn't easy. Let's be truthful about it.
right.
But so much of it comes around the mindset. So as somebody who's been through so much,
Mm-hmm.
what's your mindset and how do you keep it so strong? Because I think that's one of the most difficult things for people, right? They'll
Right.
start on Monday and be really healthy, and then by Friday they're so much pent up energy from being so healthy that they go out and they blow it the whole weekend.
Right.
Right. So, how do
Yeah.
you keep this mindset to be healthy and to stay strong? And I know
Right.
you had a crisis that needed fixing. So,
Right.
people always they'll either change, they like to change in crisis, but without the
Mm-hmm.
crisis, and people don't understand they're actually having a crisis in their body right now. I mean, I would say
Mm-hmm.
chronic inflammation is a problem of 90% of our population.
Exactly.
Keeping that mindset, what's your tools for that? What do you do to keep so strong in your mindset? How do you
Mm-hmm.
continually every day keep it going?
First of all, functional medicine is not a diet, right? We have this mentality of a diet is something I can do until I lose the 10 pounds and then I can stop dieting,
Right.
or until I lose the symptom and then I can stop and go back to what I was doing before. So it is a lifetime commitment, right? Which for some people is defeating. It's hard to say, "Oh, I'm never going to have a slice of pizza again." Right? But back to nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. Um, and the fact that I can go out and participate in life, that I can have this amazing, amazing job. I mean, there have been periods in my life where I could not get out of bed for months. And I never experienced that anymore. Right. So I don't forget that. But this is one of the things that really, really struck me when I was diagnosed with cancer. I picked up a book written by another young mom who was diagnosed with cancer. And one of her chapters, she wrote about this, that before cancer, she would approach her day as, I have to wake the kids up. I've got to get them to school. I have to make their lunches. I have to pick them up. I have to go to the grocery store. I have to take them to soccer. I have to help them do homework, and I've got to put them to bed. After cancer, she changed the words, I have to I get to. And that completely changed my whole perspective on life. I get to be there for my kids. I get to have this incredible job and help other people. I get to eat a million foods that I love and feel happy and fulfilled. I get to go to the gym. I get to sleep through the night. I get to snuggle with my husband. Everything is a privilege. Everything about life is a privilege. And that keeps me motivated. I want to continue to get to do all of those things. I don't want to feel like I have to do this, but I feel so sick. It's going to really be a difficult journey just to get to the grocery store.
I love that. I get to do it. I get to do it. It's so amazing. Well, tell us before your cancer. I kind of like to hear from you kind of how your life was then. Like, what was your day like? What was your morning routine prior to cancer in your early years? And what's it like now? Give us an example of what it's like to be Carol today. But let's go backwards. Let's start with what was it like
Yeah,
to be Carol prior to cancer and
right.
growing up?
Well, certainly, I can now look back at my life through the lens of root cause. And I was a very happy child, but we were poor, and we grew up eating the worst version of the American diet possible because it was all the packaged processed food in the cheapest version. So we didn't just eat cereal every morning for breakfast. We ate the black and white Econo brand cereal for breakfast. So the worst quality you could possibly buy, the most packaged, the cheapest food on the market. I loved it. I didn't know any different. I mean, Halloween was like a bonanza because that was free food, and it was the food we wanted as kids. We loved it. And there was no stopgap. Like, my parents were just as happy to pig out on our Halloween candy because it was free food for them too. And so we would gorge ourselves literally on anything. Going out to dinner was McDonald's. It was the only thing we could afford. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Personality wise, I'm absolutely a people pleaser. I internalize a lot. I was always worried about what other people think of me. And I think that fed a lot into my internal stress, right? I kind of held all of that inside, that ongoing worry. I've let a lot of that go later in my life. I I think of, I have to take care of myself first. I have to fill up my cup first before I can take care of other people. I'm no good to my kids. And so I make a conscious effort to take care of myself first and then everybody else in my life. And I think we have a lot of clients in that situation. They're caring for a parent with dementia, and they are completely depleted because they're not taking any time for themselves because they feel guilty to take. We are not taught to, that's considered selfish, but I don't think that anymore.
No, and we're not actually taught how to.
Right.
They do feel guilty and they don't know how to. How do you
That's right.
arrange your day so that you put yourself first and then are able to take care of them? So how do you do it? How do you put yourself first? Give us a sample of your morning routine and your day.
Yep. So I wake up and I read from a book of prayers, and that kind of sets the tone for my day. And I either head to the gym for some kind of weightlifting, because I found out from my genetics that weightlifting is really important for me and the genes that I carry. Or I walk. Love to be outside. I love walking around my neighborhood, and I love listening to books on Audible. So I listen to my book and I walk around. Then I take my shower and I get ready for work. And I do this job that gives me life every single day. Every single time I help somebody open their eyes to why it is they feel sick, or help them understand why gluten might not be a good choice of food for them, or why their genes are just predispositions, not a death sentence, that you have control over how your genes play out in your life. And you can take charge of all of that, right? You are not doomed to have the same things your parents have, or doomed to have the things that your genes say are in your genetic code. And all of that feeds me and gives me life and makes me feel like there was a purpose to everything I had been through. On Saturdays and Sundays, I grocery shop and I prep my meals for the week. So when I take my lunch break at work, I'm usually eating salmon and broccoli and Brussels sprouts and cauliflower and mushrooms and salads and bone broth and all these wonderful things that I learned to cook. I also did not cook or know how to cook at all until after cancer. I was making the same junk food for my kids before I got cancer. I didn't know any better. So I taught myself how to cook, learned lots of great recipes, and I cook everything for the week so that if I'm tired after work, I don't have to go for something easy and cheap and lazy. I already have beautiful meal made. And if I finish work early enough, I go for another walk, listen to my book some more, spend some time with my husband, call my friends or my kids, sometimes go out with my friends, keep my social life active, and watch some TV. And then I write in my happiness journal before I go to bed. And I record what was the best thing that happened to me today.
Right. And you get to do that.
And I get to do that. And I'm not a journaler. Like, journaling is one of those things in the health space that's like, well, journal all your feelings. And I don't like doing that. I don't like sitting for half an hour writing down my day or my thoughts. But I have a journal that is a 1-sentence happiness journal. And it just gives you space per day for 1 sentence. And it loops through the whole entire year, year after year after year, for 5 years, because it's just 1 line on a page.
Oh, wow.
So that gives me life, because I will not write down anything bad. So last week I had COVID. I did not write down, I have COVID and I feel like crap. I feel like, what was good about today? It was a beautiful, sunshiny day. I ate a delicious lunch. We had a great meeting at work. I had a great exchange with a client. And I'll write that in my 1 sentence. And then the next year, the next year, the next year, the next year, I can look back at the previous years and it multiplies my happiness. So I'm like, oh my gosh, 2 years ago on this date, I went and visited my daughter in Colorado. And I love it. I absolutely love it. So I practice my gratitude and my joy and remind myself how lucky I am every single night before I go to bed. I go to bed at 9.
And it goes back to mindset, right? I always tell my son, good things in, good things out. So when you're concentrating and focusing on the good things, that's what's going to get through, your reticular
activating system.
Thank you, activating system, RAS. I just say RAS. But it gets through your RAS, which is kind of the filter of your brain. So when you're looking at the good, when you're looking at the positive things in life, then that's what's going to get through more, right? I love that. So tell me a little bit about working with your clients. Can you give me what's been a really good, successful turnaround story for you with a client?
First, I'll back up and say, when I was working in functional medicine, we decided to specialize in cognitive decline, like to be kind of like a regional specialty. Right. So that's how I kind of jumped in from functional medicine into cognitive decline.
Right.
Then COVID hit and we had to try and do the practice online. And that was really, really difficult to do functional medicine online. So we closed the practice. And then I heard from you guys and I ended up working with you guys and getting certified in Bredesen and all the things. But at that time, my mom was diagnosed with dementia. And this was like this amazing full circle aha moment because my mom was extremely overweight. She had diabetes. And I started putting all the pieces of the puzzles together on
Mhm.
her root causes and what I
Yeah.
had learned from having cancer and autoimmunity and functional medicine and cognitive decline. And I'm like, this makes perfect sense. Her body is inflamed, giving her diabetes, giving her cognitive decline.
Mhm.
And she was she was a little resistant to my advice, but we could see when she ate well, her cognition improved. She knew who we were. Everything was grand. If she ate pastry for breakfast, she didn't even know who we were in the afternoon.
Mhm.
Her diabetes directly impacted her cognition.
Yeah. Well, you have an 82% chance of getting dementia if you have diabetes. That's
Yeah.
why, for those of you that don't know, when we work with clients, we put you on a continuous glucose monitor, which is that little thing diabetics wear on the back of their arms. And the reason we
Mhm.
do that is not because you're diabetic or pre-diabetic, although we get a lot of clients that are, that we help them manage that, but it's because we want you to see, you to get the feedback. You scan it on your phone, you get instant feedback on what that food you put in your body is affecting in your body, is affecting your brain health, is affecting everything. And it's not just food, right? It's of course what you eat, how you eat, when you eat, but it's also your stress and your sleep, right? And so many
Right.
people don't know that. Our clients will come
Right.
out to you and ask, well, I ate such a perfect breakfast. Why am I spiking? It's like, how was your sleep? Oh, I had terrible sleep. Okay, well, there you go, right? Like we can see it all in a big package and getting
Mhm.
that biofeedback. That's why I love the biofeedback. People get to see it themselves, but
Mhm.
it is such a great correlation for the clients to see themselves,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Exactly what you're talking about with your mother.
I just absolutely fell in love with helping other people who were experiencing what my mother was feeling, right? Using all of my knowledge, using all of my experience, using all of my passion for science to help people in this space, right? People who are worried about their memory, figure out how they can improve. I want to say I've loved every single client that I've worked with. Certainly, when you're talking about lifestyle, what you put in is what you get out, right?
Mhm.
So the more of the pillars of brain health you really dive into and you really work on, the more improvement you're going to see in your life, not
Mhm.
just in brain health, right? Because it's all connected, right? So if you've got
Mhm.
aches and pains and insomnia and fatigue
Leaky
and all of
gut
those
and
things
yeah.
get better
Mhm.
if you're focused on the pillars of brain health. And I've had some, massive success stories. I had a woman with a traumatic brain injury who came into the program with crossed eyes and the inability to work. And she was really high in her company in a managerial position. And her life was devastated by a car accident. And of course, I'm not a neurologist. I couldn't rewire her brain and what had happened to her. But the foundations of change the way that you eat, give your cells the fuel that they need to recover, get enough sleep so your brain detoxes while you're sleeping.
Mhm.
Move your body. When you move your body, you do so much to support all of your systems, including
Mhm.
detoxing. Get rid of other toxins in your life. Like you don't need to be putting that toxic deodorant in your armpits or
Right.
that shampoo on your
Simple
head.
changes, right?
Simple, simple things that you think don't matter, but they're all these drips in the bucket that add up over time. And so not actually saying, well, let me, go in and surgically repair your brain from this accident you had. It was like, let's build up the foundation of everything else your cells need for resilience. And she recovered by 95%. It was a miracle because she put the work in. She
Mhm.
changed her diet. She prioritized sleep. She took a step back from working a million hours. She went on a trip to increase social connections. I mean, she was like an A plus plus student. So kudos to her, right? I
Ah,
gave her the tools, but she put in the work.
right.
Um,
Well, and so
so
much of this is also the accountability. I mean, you are her coach. You are in her
right,
corner, supporting her for good weeks and bad weeks. You're
that's right.
there.
That's right.
You know, every single week talking to her saying, okay, we got this. What happened
That's
this
right.
week? How can we be better? And I think what people don't realize is the accountability is the biggest life changer for them. You know, doctor will say, hey, you got to go lose weight, see you in 6 months. It's like, well, how? What? You
Exactly.
know, and
Exactly.
really?
Yeah,
Right? Like, am I
that's
supposed to
right.
do this? Thank you. No guidance, no tools, no
That's right.
anything, and no
And
helping keep their mindset strong. And so I
right.
think that's, you know,
And that
kudos to
is,
you as well. She put in
yeah,
the work,
that
but
is the
you were in her
difference.
corner rooting her on.
Yeah, that is the difference because anybody can pick up a book or watch a
Right.
webinar
Right.
on brain health or functional medicine or leaky gut. But what do you do with that information? You're like, that was really, really interesting. I should do something about that. And then you
Mhm.
don't.
Or
And
if, even if you do, you don't know how it's specific to you. You know,
right,
as a genetic counselor and you're working with genetics for our clients as well. Like
right.
I said at the beginning, it's your phrase as well. I like adopting your phrases, but genetics is how you load the gun, but your environment and your lifestyle pull the trigger.
That's
And
right.
so knowing how your genetics plays a role and knowing how you need to work with that. You know I don't process inflammation very well, so I got to be in toxins. So I got to be
Hmm.
really careful about the toxins in the pots and pans that I cook with and, you know,
That's
the
right.
deodorants and things like that. Maybe you don't have to be so careful with that if you're doing a lot of other healthy stuff and your body produces, you know, is able to get rid of toxins well. Right. So those are the things that we like to dive really deep with when you're working with genetics, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So our pillars of brain health are the foundation that everybody
Mhm.
should learn.
Right.
But then we personalize it, right? We individualize the program to say, okay, here's your genetics. These are the things that matter even more for you. These are the genes that you need the most support in. And then, based on your story and the symptoms you're telling me about and the other conditions you have, I really think you need to look at gut health, or you really need to look at this other thing, or you really need to check your home for mold. So we really try and take the foundation and apply it to a personalized approach. And you definitely don't get that in any kind of a other program. And we
Right.
spend lots of time with our clients. And I think it also matters that not just me, but all of our coaches, we're walking the walk. We're not just talking the talk, right? I'm not telling people like, you should not eat pizza every weekend. I don't eat pizza. I know. I know
I
how hard
will
that
have it,
is.
you know, once a month, but
I'm not saying I'm perfect either, right? I
right,
eat
right.
I my kids worked in ice cream parlors. I ate way too much ice cream. But, you know, I am very deliberate about what my cheats are, right? And I
Mhm.
know what cheats do me in and what cheats I can get away with.
Right.
And so I don't feel deprived, but I truly have the deepest empathy for what we are asking our clients to do because I'm doing it too. And I think that helps, and that relationship and the the ability to teach them the science that underlines everything so that they understand. It's not just going in and saying, okay, don't eat bagels anymore.
Right.
And well,
Right.
why? I don't want to
Right.
skip eating bagels. I love bagels. Once you
Right. Right.
understand why, it's like, oh, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can do that.
And then also getting that biofeedback, right? The,
That's right.
oh, wow, look at what this is doing to my body.
That's right. And it
So,
doesn't
well,
take long. I mean, we have clients in a few weeks that are suddenly sleeping through the night, in a
yeah.
few weeks that are suddenly losing their
Right.
aches and pains. They suddenly have more
Right.
energy. They suddenly are remembering names of people they see
Right.
in church every week.
Right.
So it really is incredible how much lifestyle supports good
Yeah.
cellular health.
And a lot of people always ask, how do I get a better night's sleep? It's like, well, tell me about your diet. Tell me about your
That's right.
day.
Yeah.
Right. So
Hmm.
it's all again holistic, the whole body.
Yeah.
So what would you say is something surprising that you've learned about yourself in this journey on helping other people through their health journey?
I certainly never believed that I could find a career that was this fulfilling, that I was this passionate about, that I will go to the ends of the earth to help somebody because I know it works if they want it.
Mhm.
And I think that surprises me that, genetic counseling was a personal job. I was helping families who had horrific genetic diagnoses. So it was all the things that I love, right? Science plus a personal connection with a family. But it wasn't the same as this. This is my lifeblood. And I don't know that I would have thought of it as being surprised at this point, but I would have never thought that this would have been my path, that I could literally spend my days on cloud nine.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, what are some of the most helpful resources that you found in your journey that you would recommend to other clients?
My most recommended book is a book called It Starts with Food. And it really just talks about how our food system, what our ancestors foraged for and ate, and how life-giving that was, and how much our food system has changed really in only the last 100 years, right? Which is a blip in the human timeline.
Yeah.
That we went from fresh, whole, they weren't even called organic foods because everything was organic.
Pesticides weren't even around yet.
That's right. To or inorganic foods sprayed with pesticides, to animals that are growing and living in these horrific conditions. That is not only horrible for their health, but translates into the nutrient density of the meat, the eggs, the milk, the everything that we get from
the
our
hormones,
animals.
the antibiotics, everything they're pumping into these animals. We eat that goes in us.
Exactly. So our food system is changed ridiculously, and that is feeding our chronic disease epidemic in our country. And so It Starts with Food really talks about that, how our food has changed and why that is now feeding leaky gut and SIBO and candida and autoimmunity and all of the other chronic diseases. And then it walks you through something called an elimination diet, where you kind of take away all the foods that didn't exist before farming, right? Most of human existence, we were migrating and finding food along the way. And then all of a sudden, we figured out how to stay put and become farmers, which honestly was life-saving for the human race, right? Then you could grow some food, pen in a few animals, but it took this vast diversity of nutrients and foods that we used to eat and narrowed it down to about a dozen, whatever we could grow and trade with our neighbor. And then we started processing it, and we started adding hormones, and we started adding pesticides, and it has led to chronic
bigger
disease.
And cheaper to produce, right? That's what it's all been about.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that book will change anybody's life. You take away all the foods that came into the American diet, even the healthy ones that are post-farming, and you eliminate them for 30 days. And then you reintroduce them one at a time and see how they make you feel.
Wow.
And
so what do you end up eating in that 30 days?
You eat lots of vegetables, fruits, animal protein. You eat no gluten, no dairy, no grains, no beans, and no sugar.
For 30 days. Anybody can do anything for 30 days, especially if you have a coach on your side,
for 30 years.
Right. Well, yes, of course. But the 30 days is going to help you see.
That's right.
And I think that's what so many people miss, because so much of this is how you feel afterwards. Like, I really don't. I love the taste of hamburgers. I feel so horrific after eating a hamburger and French fry meal. I just don't. And I think people that are so chronically unhealthy and have been for so many decades, potentially their whole lives. Right. If they're in their 50s now, it could be their whole lives they have been unhealthy. They don't know what healthy feels
Exactly.
Or they have long forgotten.
Yes.
And so something like that is drastic, and you should definitely have someone on your side and help you go through it. But it will show you how healthy feels, so that you know that nothing tastes as good as healthy feels, because you can think to yourself, and I do that. I look at that cheeseburger, I'm like, oh, I know the rest of my day is going to be ruined because I'm going to feel so horrific for that.
That's right. But you've made the connection, and most people don't, right? They think, oh, it's just the way that I am. I just need to lie down for 10 minutes after I eat.
Exactly.
I just, every day at 3 o'clock, I just really feel like I need a candy bar to get through the
Right.
rest of my day, right?
Right.
All of those things are not normal. That is
Right.
not normal. And when you give your immune system a 30-day break and then you go back to things one at a time, that's when you have your aha moments. And that's when you
Yeah.
can really see what food does to your body.
And it really is dependent on each person. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
really what we focus on it as a company is we can't just blanket diet. I can't,
That's
you
right.
eat very differently than I eat, and I can tolerate things you
Right.
can't tolerate. And that's okay. And so
Mm-hmm.
we need to look at how your body individualizes. I mean, I've
Exactly.
gotten in the habit of saying now any nutritionist that doesn't put you on a CGM really isn't worth their weight in gold,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Because you cannot, without looking at the individual human and how their genetics play a role, how their body, their current body is looking. There's just no way. And looking at their history
Mm-hmm.
and other diseases that they have and
That's right.
everything that plays a role in this. I mean, I know I have a friend that has Crohn's, and we put her on a CGM, and she would have a milkshake and it wouldn't even spike, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was beyond the point of spiking because she has no insulin left in her body.
That's
Right. And she thought it
incredible.
was fine. Oh, look, it doesn't affect me because look how good.
Right.
Like my body tolerates this really well. It's like, no, you actually have no insulin left in it.
Right. Right.
Right. So
It's really unbelievable what you can uncover when you
yeah,
start to look for the answers. Right.
right. Right. And it can be
Yeah.
scary, but that's why you have people to help you through it. If someone like you can get through cancer and chemo and so many different autoimmune diseases and MS and Crohn's disease and even the rare ones I can't even pronounce, it's anybody can do this, but it does take time and patience, and that's why you do need help with
Mhm.
it. So I'm
Yeah.
so grateful that you are on our team. I love working with you. I see the transformations all the time. All of our coaches like to put the success stories that we have, and people share pictures with us. You were just telling me right as we got on the call that you were reading something to yourself. What was that?
Yeah. I got an Easter card from one of my clients, and it was just made my day, right?
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
verbiage of the card was, you were put in my life for a reason. You're such a blessing. You've changed me. I mean, it was just
Mm.
incredible. It was incredible.
It
And
is.
that's
It's
why I love
incredible
to
what
do
you do.
this.
Yeah, it's incredible in what you do, and you do dramatically change people's lives. And we need more people like you for sure. But I'm just grateful that we have you. And I'm so grateful for this time today with you, Carol. I feel like
Me
we can go
too.
on for hours and hours, and we have to
we
do
could,
another
we could.
another one of these. But I just want to thank you for being here and sharing your story and sharing your knowledge with the world and all of our clients. And so if you want to work with us, if you want to get into one of our coaching programs, there's a link right below this video. Go ahead and click on that. You can learn more and talk to us. So I also want to share, Carol, you've written an amazing book. Can you tell us about it and tell people how they can get it?
Sure. So, when I first started finding my answers, I got this bug like, I've got to tell the world, right? I have to tell everybody, like, you don't have to suffer. You don't have to go see your doctor for 5 minutes and walk out with only a prescription. There are answers out there. And I didn't really know how to spread that knowledge to the world. I hadn't yet gone back to school. I hadn't yet started working in this space. And so I said, I'm just going to write a book. And I just wrote my story, kind of like what we were just talking about, how I got cancer, how I figured this stuff out, how I got autoimmune disease. And I wrote it with the intention of trying to tell people, you can do this too. You can do this. So I wrote a book. It's called From Illness to Business, because I was so ill. I could not do a thing for such a long time. And then I was getting out there, starting my own business, becoming a coach, helping people. And so I wrote my story down, and it's available on Amazon.
Wonderful. We'll put that link down below too in the description so you can go and get Carol's book. All right, Carol, you go have a great rest of your day. All right.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.